Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's only day 13 into the Donald Trump administration, and we're already faced with yet another round of questions about President Trump's potential conflicts of interest over his business holdings. The most recent issue raising these questions is President Trump's Muslim ban executive order. At face value, this action looks like yet another harmful step in his divisive agenda. Trump's hateful scapegoating of refugees will make us less safe and goes against our country's moral fiber and small d democratic values. It's hard to believe that these 7 countries were targeted based on a serious threat posed by their citizens traveling to the United States. The people responsible for some of the most egregious attacks on American soil in recent decades, including 9/11, the Times Square bombing, the Boston Marathon bombing, the Pulse nightclub shooting, and others, did not come from these 7 countries. In fact, refugees from these countries already face a lengthy and rigorous vetting process led by our security and intelligence agencies. This 20-step process involves multiple background checks, interviews, and screenings, and frequently takes between 18 and 24 months for approval. However, these 7 countries do have at least one thing in common. According to Bloomberg News, the Trump Organization does not have business or pursued business deals in any of them. President Trump does, on the other hand, have business ties to other countries in the region that were excluded from the ban. His FEC filings indicate Trump Organization has development projects in Saudi Arabia and business projects possibly related to Egypt. These countries were excluded from the executive order despite being home to many of the terrorists who carried out 9/11. And in Turkey, President Trump has a licensing deal for 2 luxury towers to use his name, a deal he received up to $5 million for just last year, and he has licensing agreements with businesses in other countries in the region. Now, I'm not saying that we should ban people from these countries. I firmly oppose any ban based on nationality or religion. But it is unacceptable that business interests have played potentially a role in such a destructive policy, a policy that also makes our country less safe in the long run. This move will likely damage relationships with our Muslim allies who are fighting ISIS militants and be used as a tool by the Islamic State to increase their recruitment and radicalization efforts. Now, of course, my friends in the majority in the White House claim that the 7 countries under this order were similarly targeted by our previous administration. In reality, President Trump's discriminatory ban is drastically different than President Obama's specific changes to the State Department visa waiver program, which changes focused on expedited visa privileges for dual nationals, not targeting all citizens from specific countries. But I'll bet you didn't hear Sean Spicer make that distinction. Instead, the administration is busy downplaying the number of people impacted by this decision, claiming that only 109 people were affected, aka alternative facts. And at least 700 people were denied boarding after the order was issued, and 90,000 people in these countries already have visas but will not be able to travel to the United States. It's time for the President to stop defending his divisive and unconstitutional executive order and start being transparent about his business interests. Every president elected in the modern era has released tax records to assure the American people that their actions will not be impacted by financial holdings. After promising throughout the campaign to release his tax returns, President Trump's advisors recently announced he will indefinitely hide this information from the public. These holdings potentially put President Trump in direct violation of the Emoluments Clause of the Constitution on day 1. This safeguard is designed to prevent corruption and foreign influence over policy decisions by not allowing federal officials to take money from a foreign entity without congressional approval. But we've seen report after report of foreign leaders and diplomats choosing to stay at the Trump Hotel in Washington, D.C. in order to gain favor with the administration. They stand to profit from foreign governments, including a big paycheck from a Chinese bank, a large tenant of the Trump Tower. These are just tip of the iceberg examples of direct conflicts in both domestic and foreign policy under this president. Mr. President, it's time for you to fix this. One, divest your business holdings immediately to remove any suggestion of a conflict in your decision-making. Two, show us your tax returns so the American people and financial interests are transparent to the American people. And three, get rid of your unconstitutional executive order, which will make us less safe and only serve to embolden our enemies. Short of that, we'll have to take other actions, including legislative directives, resolutions of disapproval, and even explore the power of impeachment. I yield back.